class. I love the enthusiasm at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning. It's wonderful. It's fake. Well, if you're not truly enthused now, you will be later. Brittany Hudson is awesome and amazing. You know this by the applause. She was gracious enough to do a presentation and open it up to the whole MTC community, not just my class. She's a former student. She's awesome and amazing. I tell her all the time, and I think you all know it, so she gets this confirmation. So give her your undivided attention. Her presentation is really great, and it's a lot of fun, and hopefully it will inspire you all to do some really cool research in the future. So, Brittany Hudson.
Hi, friends. Okay, good morning, first of all. I'm really proud of all of us being here for 9 a.m. You can leave like some of them on. Darkness makes me uncomfortable. Okay, perfect. Okay, does everyone feel okay in the lighting?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I want you all to be comfortable. Okay, so thank you for being here so early. I know 9 a.m. for college students is a lot, especially for me. So, this was my honors project that I did last semester. So how I got started with it, if you're familiar with the honors contract, you have to do, like normally teachers will have you do like a paper and a presentation and you're done and you get like $375 or $325 and you're good and it's awesome. So that was happening, so I took it to Mona Scott. I asked Mona Scott if I could create a contract with her, and she said yes, but she said that I needed to make my own presentation, or my own idea for what I wanted to do. Normally teachers just tell me what to do. I'm really used to that. I'm a big fan of just being told what to do. Well, I used to be. So, so she had me come up with this idea. So I should say that I'm a sociology major with emphasis in human sexuality and gender equality. And so I was very interested in this whole idea of abstinence. In our sex ed programs, we teach abstinence, but when we look at the numbers, they're more 91% of Americans have sex before marriage. So we can see abstinence isn't really working, so I was really interested in all of that. So I came up with this idea to wear a shirt. We came up with the process of ethnomethodology. Ethnomethodology is disrupting a social norm, so it's doing something out of the norm and recording how people react to it. So I decided I want to make a shirt that said, not a virgin. And I was like, it's really cool, it talks about like premarital sex and I'm not ashamed, and it's cool, and it's like in the face of like abstinence in America that's not really happening. And Mona Scott was like politely nodding, she's like, yeah, no, not shocking enough. Everyone knows people aren't virgins on college campuses, so think of something more shocking. So I was like, okay, what's more shocking about me and my sexuality? Okay, so then I thought, I'll make a shirt that says, I watch porn. And then I was like, I was really afraid of this shirt. Like I did not want to wear a shirt that said I watch porn. So I had to self-reflect, why don't I want to wear a shirt that says I watch porn? So I was thinking about it and I was like, oh, because everyone knows if you watch porn, you masturbate too. Most likely, you don't have to, but for me, they go hand in hand. So, so then I decided I'd just go straight for it. It was what scared me most about it. I was scared of people knowing that I masturbated because of my idea. Hi friends, go ahead and come on in. Okay. So because of my idea that there's this double standard. So we all know, maybe we hear like masturbation is bad. Like everyone knows like masturbation is bad, don't do it, it's weird and awkward, it's socially weird. So we all hear that, but then we hear like, boys are gonna do it. Boys are gonna do it, and it's not really okay, but all that testosterone, like they're just gonna, we kind of let them get away with it, but girls do not masturbate. Girls are definitely ladylike, they don't get into it, they don't do that, they don't think about it, they don't want it. So girls won't do it, and if girls do it, they are gross, nasty freaks. So that's what I grew up hearing about all that. So then I decided that I was gonna wear this shirt, even though it scared me. So I don't have the little remote, but I do have this slide. So I know it's 9 a.m. and we're all strangers, and we're talking about this thing we never talk about in society, which is sex. So everyone's maybe slightly uncomfortable. So I'm going to go ahead and ask all of you, what are some things you've heard about masturbation? I kind of gave away the answers already because I told you. Yes, you, who I've never met.
If you masturbate too much, you go blind and get hairy palms.
Right, I knew the hairy palms would come up. So you go blind and get hairy palms, fear tactics, those are big in America. We're big on fear tactics and not to do things. Hello, you, who I've never met before.
For a guy to keep a healthy prostate, you have to masturbate at least 21 times. Well, ejaculate 21 times.
Correct. So there actually is truth to that. I don't know the exact number, but there is truth to ejaculation does lead to a healthy prostate. So hopefully there's a lot of healthy men in the room. Okay. Okay, so perfect. So we have someone from Europe here. Europe is doing it right, in my opinion. Their sex ed is on point. You want to talk about, they have comprehensive sex ed, which we'll get into. So they teach how to avoid STIs. They teach comprehensive. They teach contraceptives, which we're afraid to do here in America, so we teach abstinence. Like, yeah, wait till you're married, and it's awesome. But the thing is, you look at our statistics, we have not the highest because I don't have the data on it, but close to the highest STI rates, unwanted pregnancy rates, and abortion rates. But then you look at Europe where they're just like passing out condoms and information and like, this is safe, let's make it a dinner topic, and they have the lowest rates of unwanted pregnancy, the lowest rates of STIs, and the lowest rates of abortion. So we're seeing that that works, and this doesn't. So anyway, good input. Anything else? Does anyone feel like there's like a gender double standard? We're gonna go with mom down here in the front row.
That if you masturbate, you're a nymphomaniac.
If you masturbate, you're a nymphomaniac. For men or for women or both?
For women.
For women, right. Okay, so you're over-sexualized if you're masturbating as a woman. Okay, what else?
Well, and I never heard a lot of the things like the furry palms when I was a kid. We just don't
Furry
talk
palms.
about it. Like we just didn't talk about it. Like it was non-existent until I saw something on the internet. I was like, oh, this exists.
Okay,
So like it was just non-existent.
right, so we don't talk about it. And bad things happen in silence. We're gonna go back here with the, I'm assuming female with cool hair. Hello.
I think that there's a giant stigma with sex, like men can have all the sex that they want and it's not a big deal. But as soon as a woman sleeps with maybe 2 guys in 1 weekend, or in a month even, it becomes big, oh, she's kind of slut.
Perfect. And we'll get into that. So, as you saw, snapping means I agree with what she's saying. Like it's like a quiet way of support. Like I'm supporting her while she's speaking. She knows when you're saying like kind of out there things that we don't really talk about, it's cool to know like, hey, we're supporting you back here. So if you feel inclined to snap, go for it. We got a few snappers in the room. I know there'll be a few snappers in the room, so go ahead and go for it. Okay, so we've heard some ideas about masturbation. We've identified there kind of is a gender standard as in terms of like guys are kind of like free to masturbate, free to go have sex, that's cool, but girls, like, you should probably not do that, maybe scrapbook instead. So we can see that there's kind of this double standard. Okay, before I hop into this, we're gonna do some quick terminology, okay? But actually, I'm gonna back up a bit. So, Mona and I decided I was going to wear a shirt that said, I masturbate. Mona said you have to put like, for real, or I'm serious, because people think like, that girl wants a lot of attention. Why is she walking around campus with a shirt on? So I put a lot. That was the term I used. I masturbate a lot. So that was the project point of it. But there was a research point. So people see me wearing the shirt and they're like, there's a white girl who wants more attention. What's she got going on? But really, there was a lot of research that went into it. And it was all academic and it was all peer-reviewed. So I had to read 10 peer-reviewed articles on the sexual stigmas in America and ethnomethodology. So I researched all that, and it's actually pretty awesome research. I wasn't a fan of research, but I'm a fan of research now, and you're gonna see the passion come out. So, we're gonna run through some quick terminology. I know we have a sociology class in the building. What? Mona Scott's human sexuality class, I'm a big fan. It's my alma mater, so. I'm gonna run through these triggers. We're talking about something that we don't really talk about in society, sexuality. So, triggers are subjects or statements that evoke strong, unfamiliar, and unexpected emotions. So when someone says something about race, and you're like, woo! Like it just gets you and you want to like bite their head off and scream at them, and you're like, well, where'd that come from? It's because we don't really have a social script on sex or race or these other taboos, and so we don't really know, like normally like, hi, hello, my name's Brittany, nice to meet you. That's a social script. We know what we're doing. We know what to say, and it's socially acceptable. But when it comes to race and sex, I don't know what to say, and then you're like, why did I get so loud? And why did my body do that? Triggers are good. When you get triggered, if you get triggered during this presentation, explore it. It's a good thing. It means there's some stuff you can think through, new ideas. Okay? Triggers are good, explore them, don't scream at me. Okay, then we're gonna run through this. When we're talking about male and female, sex refers to your genitalia, and gender refers to socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society, America, gives. So we have masculine and feminine, men are confident and sexual and wear suits, and women are like, you know, pretty and scrapbook and cook, and they're nurturing, and there's a lot of good qualities to being a female. I'm not bitter. So that's a quick rundown. So when we talk about, it's different. You don't have to have male genitalia to be a man. You don't have to have female genitalia to be a woman. So, okay, cisgender. I am cisgender because a person whose gender identity aligns with their biological sex. So I am fine with the pronoun she. I would say that my gender is female, and I have female genitalia, so I'm cisgender. It's a really cool privilege. I can walk into any bathroom I want, and no one looks at me funny. Whoa, gosh, something happened. Whew, that was close. Okay, heteronormative. A view that basically just means you expect everyone around you to be straight. Like I would be like, oh yeah, I had a really cool date last night. People would be like, what's his name? And I'd be like, her name is not a he. So it's pretty much the idea that you meet everyone and think they're straight. Not really a good thing anymore. People aren't as straight as they used to be. Okay. So we talked about how we see that there's this gender double standard, but those are all observations. They could be micro observations that you've seen. This is more research-based, saying, like just confirming our observations. 80% of college students felt it would be abnormal for a man to never masturbate. I would agree with that. I would be part of the 80%. And then 46 of the same people assumed that women never masturbate. Wah wah. So then we have this weird double standard created. Okay? Also, we see here, within the last month, 65% of males admit to masturbating. Maybe. And then we see, wah wah, 40% admit. And good for the 40%, because there's a lot of stigma. But what we also find in research is that it's not reliable. This research is not reliable because there's so much stigma with masturbation that females aren't really like, even if it's anonymous, they're not gonna be like, check yes, I masturbated yesterday. They're gonna be like, oh, females aren't supposed to masturbate, I won't tell anyone I do that on this anonymous peer-reviewed scientist study. Pass my paper. Okay, so we've identified there's all this crazy stuff going on. But where does it come from, Brittany? Tell me, I'm dying to know. Okay, so it's all cultural. It's gonna differ if you go here or Europe. It's gonna be different because there's different cultures. So one of the biggest things is religion. We know we're like a huge Christian country. That's awesome, sweet. So we can see there's a disapproval of masturbation in Christian religion, at least in the Christian religion I was in. Okay, maybe it's for like self-mastery, self-control, the sanctity of sex. There's a lot of different reasons. I don't really know about religion, so next slide. Okay, there was a study done in Canada. It took 44 films within the North American continent, and this is what they found. 75% of the characters were male, typically unattractive. Ugly males masturbate. Okay, we get it. 84% were single. Single, lonely, ugly males masturbate. Okay, we get it. And 68% of the instances led to negative outcomes. Okay, lonely, ugly males masturbate, and they get interrupted or frustrated and dirty, and it's not good. Okay, that's a lot of bad stuff happening in our media. Masturbation has an ugly name in our media. So you can see only 14% depicted positive outcomes. So when you masturbate, you have a 14% chance of having a good time. Those are not good odds. Those aren't good. So it's hard to see whether the media is playing into society or whether society is playing into the media. But what we can gauge is that we are influenced by our media. So if as a female I'm seeing ugly, lonely, gross males are masturbating, it's not even working for them, why would I think it would work for me? Okay, so we have negative ideas, I understand that. That's just the way it is, Brittany, just the way it is. Like, they don't even do anything, it works. Like, we're all made different, so that's how it's supposed to be. No. Okay. There was a study done with 20 cisgender heterosexual females. So they had female genitalia and identified as a female gender, and they were heterosexual, shocker. So they were asked what they thought about masturbation. And Stephanie, who's 17, said, I would never touch myself, you know? I think that's just really disgusting. It's just not right, because only a boy's supposed to touch you there, and even then it's not that great. Been there, Stephanie, been there. So, while this quote, this is just one instance, it's a micro interaction, it's one instance, she very beautifully breaks down 3 of the really bad things that this connotation does to females. It makes them think. Can make them think. Not all females are socialized the same way, so don't feel like I'm personally attacking you as a female. Okay, so these are the 3 things we gained from this, from her idea, the quote she just said. Touching my body parts is disgusting. Like, and I mean, sexual body parts. I touch my arm all the time, and it's pretty socially acceptable. But you know, like getting into your vulva, or labia majora, or labia minora, or vagina, or any of those words that you're just shocked I said and you feel weird, those are disgusting. Okay? body are only for males. Dang. And number 3, sexual interaction is not enjoyable. Those are the 3 main ideas she said in her awesome quote. So we're gonna break these down, and this is where it gets tricky, but stick with me. I'll feed you baby birds. I'm gonna get you through this labyrinth. And we're gonna come out sexually entitled people as a whole. Okay, so here we go. Here's where the note cards come in because it gets sticky. I know, I'm in a pencil skirt and I have note cards. Clearly a big deal. So, touching my sexual parts is disgusting. That's what we see. So this breaks down into the idea, sexual organs are disgusting, they should be avoided, which is sucky because sometimes I have to get to those for like really common things like urinating or menstruating. So I always got to deal with this gross, disgusting, avoiding stuff. And the desire to touch sexual parts is disgusting. Okay. So this leads to a lack of exploration of pleasurable possibilities. If I was told not to touch down there, I don't really know that the clitoris is like this really awesome like pot of honey. I don't really know that because I never explored down there. Then also, it applies, I'm gross for touching these parts. Well, sometimes I have to touch these parts. Sometimes I want to touch these parts. Does that make me gross? Am I gross for wanting to touch these parts? So then these wheels start turning in the head of like, well, I want to touch, like when I touch that, it feels kind of good, but that's gross, right? So I'm gross, I'm bad, I'm a monster? What's wrong with me? Why am I a monster? So then you start feeling bad about all these desires you have. So then it teaches females, it has a possibility to teach females that these parts are gross and bad, and they don't do anything for me, so what are they even here for? What are these parts even here for? I'm totally disconnected from these parts. They're just nuisances. Like they bleed and get me in trouble, make me feel bad. Like what is this for? I'll tell you what it's for. These parts are for males. So, sexual parts of my body are only for males. Remember in the quote, she's like, only a boy's supposed to touch you down there. So, this idea leads to a perception of partner ownership of female sexuality, meaning these parts are strictly for partner's pleasure, okay, because not all partners are males. So, that's a big pill to swallow. You hear that and you're like, no, Brittany, no, I don't feel like any of my partners own my sexuality. I'm gonna break it down for you. I'll break it down with note card number 2. Okay? So we see that sexual arousal is dependent upon men. Like some of the females would say like, I mean, if a guy's there, I just don't even get horny, so I'm not gonna do anything. So we see that it's dependent upon a man. It's dependent upon a male being there or your partner being there. People aren't really, your sexuality is not accepted unless a partner is there to give it to you or arouse those feelings within you. So, okay, we see that, and we can kind of see the link of how it leads to male ownership or partner ownership. So it can get the wheels turning, meaning, like I would start thinking, these parts don't do anything for me, and they're only for you to touch. Like, I'm not allowed to touch them. It's gross when I touch them, but when my partner touches them, that's okay. So they don't really do anything for me. Like, they're pretty much for you. Like, you just do what you want with them. Like, I'm not even allowed to touch them, and you are, so I guess you're in control here, okay? So this leads to another bad thing that we're about to hop into, is that like in a sexual interaction, if I've been socialized all these ways, like I'm not really gonna instruct you on what works because I don't really know what works. Like I don't even know where my clitoris is, so I don't know where to tell you to go. So, you know, you just like, go ahead guy, keep doing what you're doing. We'll see if you get there. So that's also uncomfortable for the partner because the partner has to play this guessing game, and that's not fun for either party involved. Okay? So then we get into sexual interaction is not enjoyable because of the last things we talked about. Maybe one partner, let's say the female, doesn't know how to instruct the partner on what works because she was never allowed to find out what works. And then she's also kind of like disconnected from her parts, like these parts are for you, so I'm not even supposed to enjoy sex. Like all this is for you, and I like cuddling and I can pretend this is like cuddling. So for the next 17 minutes, for the next 8 minutes we'll pretend we're cuddling. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky because all these things start happening like one after another, but then at the same time, so it's like this weird tornado of effects happening. It's hard to follow it chronologically. Stick with me. I'm going to give you a flow chart and it's going to clear everything up. So we can see that due to lack of body exploration, women are less likely to know how to achieve orgasm. I don't know which way to push things around to make stuff work. So then they admit to a lack of communication with sexual partners. I can't tell you how it works, so I'm not going to communicate with it. I've also removed myself from it, so like you just do what works. There's no reason to communicate here. Like we can bargain, maybe we can watch a romantic comedy later. Then what we find out is women with negative views of masturbation expect partners to be aggressive in sexual interactions. That's not because the man's a tool or he's like a big douche, which is a bad word, don't say douche. It's not because of any of those things. It's just because men have been sexualized to own their sexualized? Men have been socialized to own their sexuality, while females have been socialized it's for somebody else. So the men are going to be more aggressive. They're picking the positions, they're picking the techniques, they're picking the atmosphere and the time limit, and females are just going to be more submissive. Why would I fight for something that was never mine? So here's a beautiful flowchart. I just threw a lot of information at you, and that was a lot to handle. And maybe you're like, none of this applies to me. This doesn't apply to me. Like, last night I told my man what I wanted, so this does not apply to me. Okay? I'll talk you through that part later. It's a hard part of sociology, self-reflection. But, so we see it starts up here in this beautiful mint circle. Discouragement to explore body parts. When you were a tiny child and your mom told you those were your no-no parts, we learned those are bad. Those are bad and don't touch them. Even if they do cool things, ignore that. Okay, so then when they finally do get touched in a cool way, it was a partner who did it for you. So you didn't really learn about it until your partner was there. Okay, I'm with you, Brittany. Okay, take me to the next flowchart. All right, then we see this partner ownership of sexuality. They gave it to you, so it's kind of like theirs, like this awesome gift that you can share, but really like he gets the better portion of it. Or she. Heteronormativity is a gross thing. So, then we have loss of personal entitlement. At the same time my partner gave this to me, I also let him give it to me. So I got rid of my entitlement. I'm not really going to say what works. I'm not going to say what I want because, I mean, this was never for me to begin with. Okay? Then we take a big turn. Okay. This leads to your partner having control of sexual interactions. And not in like a mean, crazy way. It's just like, yeah, you know what you're doing, so go for it. And like, oh, you don't want to wear a condom? That's cool. I don't know anything about that. So you seem to know about it, so you go ahead and wear a condom. I mean, don't wear a condom. Wait, what are we doing? We're not wearing a condom? Cool. Okay, sweet. So that's where we come into these unsafe sexual interactions. Or maybe you get into sexual interactions that you're not comfortable with. It's just like, ooh, I don't like when he pulls my hair, but I don't know how to tell him to stop. Stop. Okay, he didn't hear me. All right? And then that also leads into unfulfilling sexual interactions. If you don't know, I'm a big proponent of the saying, like, you can't teach if you haven't read the textbook. If you don't know the material, you can't really teach it. So he's not gonna know what to do. It's a guessing game. Like, man, I will tell you, the vulva is a labyrinth, so I don't blame him. Okay, so hopefully the flowchart cleared it up. There's all that. You see these things happen synonymously. These things happen synonymously while it's all moving. But it started from here, but I don't know how it got here. How did that happen? It happened in tiny, tiny blocks that have been happening your whole life that you're unaware of. Okay. Cool. Okay, well, cool. So now we hear that because I was socialized as a female, I have all these really bad sexual stigmas, and that's cool, Brittany, thanks. It's 9 a.m. on a Friday. I was going to get turned up tonight. Not anymore. Okay? I'm going to teach you how to get turned up. So, what we find in the research is that there are a lucky few who escape the negative stigma, okay? Maybe they hear it, and they're like, this isn't for me. I don't really agree with this. I don't really feel bad about what I'm doing, Bishop Peterson, so I'm going to keep doing it. I got really specific really fast. So, what we find in the research, and Hogarth's study, is that women who masturbate experience higher levels of sexual subjectivity. They're the subject of sex. It's not like okay, well, you take what you want. It's like, here's what I want and here's what you want. Let's make it 50-50, because equality is a good thing. Okay. They're more successful at achieving pleasure, probably because they played around down there, so they know what works. Then we find they reflect more on sexual aspects of their lives. They're not disconnected from their sexuality. They're okay with their sexuality. They're more expressive in intimate relationships. Sweet. And they're more resistant to gender double standards. Yes, fighting gender norms, I'm all about it. Wow, that's so awesome. That's so cool. I want all these things in my cool life. That's so cool. How do I get them? Cool. So these are the things that I found in the research, okay? So here's all the research I'm working with. And then I create the shirt. There's me in the shirt. So, I make this shirt. I wear this shirt to campus. I'm like shaking. Clearly you can tell, like I don't really get embarrassed or shy easily. I'm freaking scared out of my mind. So I'm like walking onto campus, it's like 8:15, and I'm like, oh God, everyone's staring at my shirt. Oh God, okay, ready to do this. You know the research, you know why these people are looking at you like this. You're fine, okay, keep doing it. So I go and I sit down. I'm studying for Paul Harash's test in Sociology 101. And then it happens, my first interaction. Okay, it's probably 8:30, 15 minutes, y'all. I've been sitting there for 15 minutes. So this lady comes up to me. She says to me, well, first she clears her throat because I was trying to ignore her. And then I like looked up. She's like standing over me. She's like, can I ask you about your shirt? I'm like, yes, please do. She's like, well, let me first just tell you, it's making people very uncomfortable. I was like, is it? Tell me everything, I need to know. And she's like, well, we just want to know why you're doing this. I mean, well, and I was like, well, why do people think I'm doing it? And she says, well, they just don't understand. They think you're doing it for attention, you want attention, they don't understand why you're wearing it. And then she said such a beautiful sentence. I probably would have taken off the shirt out of fear. Then she says, they just don't know why a girl would be wearing this shirt. Ooh, you got me! Ooh! As soon as you say that a girl can't do something, I'm gonna do it so hard. I wore this shirt all day. So I was like, that's very interesting, thank you. I stayed composed. And I explained to her that it was a process of eth and methodology, and I was just reporting the results. And then she was like, And then she was like, so... And I said, do you think I should take it off? She was like, oh, I think you should consider it's making people uncomfortable. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. White, middle-aged, appearingly heterosexual woman. Thank you. And then she lingered because something was happening. There was no defined answer. I would not tell her whether I was leaving the shirt on or not. In society, we don't like things that don't fit boxes. Yes or no? What are you gonna do? I'm gonna linger uncomfortably till you tell me because I can't handle maybes and gray lines and like, I can't handle that you might like two genders at the same time. So, that happens. I'm all scared. I go into Paul Harash's class, ace the test because I'm freaking awesome. And then I run to Mona Scott's class and I'm like, oh my gosh, Mona Scott, please calm me down because this girl came to me and apparently she has an office just for student complaints. Student, no, when you see someone wearing a masturbation shirt, run to her office. So everyone's talking to this teacher, freaking out. Mona Scott, the beautiful angel she is, calms me down. So Mona Scott calms me down. And then this one girl is like, your shirt's so cool! And I was like, what? A positive reaction. And then they just started swarming. Of course, because sociology kids are so cool. Of course, they were open-minded, like, cool shirt. So everyone starts telling me, cool shirt, we like your shirt. So throughout the day, what starts happening is all these females are like, high-fiving me, and they're like, I totally masturbate. Why do people think we don't? Like, all these girls are like rallying up, and they're like, that's our leader, which I'm like not saying that in a mean way. So I start wearing this shirt, and what's the reason I wore this shirt? So we know it's for like a scholarship that would cover 2 of my classes, and we know that I did this research on it, and that's all cool. But what made me want to wear this shirt? Why did I even care to have people know that I masturbate? And I did it because when I was growing up, I was hearing all this stuff about like fuzzy palms, like a monster, and I was hearing that only boys do it and it's gross, and if you do it, it's double gross, and why aren't you scrapbooking? So I felt like this creepy, creepy monster. I felt so creepy, and every time after I did it, I felt gross, like I needed to go for a jog, and I did, and I lost a lot of weight. So, but in time, I started talking to my friends about it, and they're like, yeah, I do it too, and I feel like a creepy monster, and what's wrong with me? I was like, I don't think anything's wrong with us, actually. Everyone I talk to is doing it, so why are we being told that we can't do it? So then me and my friends got together like some kind of like breakfast club. I don't know, I've never seen the movie. So then I started to find out all these girls were doing it. I was like, why am I being told to feel bad about this? So I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, I'm not doing this in excess. It's not hurting anyone. It's not detrimental to me or anyone else. I feel good about it. So why am I told to feel bad about it? So eventually over time and a lot of self-reflection and a lot of guilt, I started to be okay with the fact I masturbated. And it was such a release because as I described, when you feel gross and dirty in your sexuality, it's not a good place to live. Felt like a creepy, creepy monster, like ran out of a trash can and like ate and then ran back when the sun came up. Felt like a mythological creature. There it is. There, it's not done. I'm not done. I'm just having so excited. Everyone wants to know what the mythological creature is. It's the girl who masturbates. She doesn't exist, but she does exist. So, so I wanted to wear the shirt so that girls like me didn't have to feel like monsters anymore. So you could be walking around going to like your like psychology 101, boo. And then you would see this girl who's totally cool with the fact she masturbates and she has an awesome top on and faux stilettos, which did not stay on my feet. She's so cool. Wow, and she defies all the norms. She's not single, she's not ugly, and she's not a male. What's happening? Brain does not understand. So, I wanted to do that to empower other women to feel like it's okay to masturbate. So, how can we do that as a whole? How can we empower women to feel like it's okay to be sexual? And you don't have to masturbate if you don't want to, and you don't have to not masturbate if you don't want to. How can we get a better connotation and a more equal connotation of female sexuality? I'm gonna tell you. You're welcome. Okay, how do we construct positive connotation of female sexuality? And into it we go. Critical thinking. I've had a lot of people ask me if this presentation would get uncomfortable. Like, am I gonna be uncomfortable there? Is it gonna be like crazy jokes and like weird acronyms for stuff? No, there's not gonna be any weird jokes. Maybe, I've probably made a few. So, this is where it gets uncomfortable, okay? Because you're gonna have to look into your soul, and that's a rough place to be for some people. Critical thinking. Where did these negative ideas come from? Well, they didn't come from anywhere, Brittany. This is just the way it is. It's not just the way it is. Don't ever say that to me. So, where did these come from? Possibly religion, possibly media, possibly your peers. But we find these all work together, okay? All these things work together. So if your parents were the one telling you that sexuality is bad, it's probably because they saw it in the media or because they saw it in the religion. So all these things are working together, okay? So you have to look into each aspect of this. Where did I learn about it? Do I agree with it? What does it make me think, okay? Then you have to the next step. How do these negative sexual socialization affect you and your thought process? That's big for a reason, okay? So conformity. I've been like, okay, an orgasm is not my ultimate goal in sex, so I don't really need to take the time to teach him how, because we made a cuddle bargain and I get 17 minutes of cuddling afterward. And that is a personal experience. That was not me making fun of females. So you can see that sometimes there is conformity happening. I'm conforming to this socialization. I'm conforming to this double standard, me, myself. Or maybe males are aiding in the conformity in a heterosexual relationship, which not all relationships are. So then we have thought process. Okay, whatever, it affects my life, but I'm cool with it. Like, this is all justified. I got here on my own. Thought process. Okay, how does this affect our thought process? Slut shaming. As Osiris said in the back, if a female has sex with 3 males in the right amount of time, she's a big hoochie mama. Okay, and I'm not going to say that men who have sex aren't hoochie mamas also, because man whore is becoming more and more popular of a word. And I mean, I'm not trying to shame men here or women. I'm all for like equality between the genders. I'm not like a radicalist feminist. Maybe, I'm getting close. So, so slut shaming. When I hear that my best friend just had sex with 6 guys last year, I'm all for women's equality. I make PowerPoints about it, but there's a big S word that comes to my head when I hear all that sex you've been having. So how does this affect our thought process? Okay. All right, so the next step would be encourage female sexual entitlement. Recognize when you perpetuate or conform to gender double standards, and encourage those around you to be comfortable in their bodies and sexuality. When my friend comes up, I almost said her name. When my friend comes up and says that she had sex with 6 guys unprotected last year, I'm not gonna call her a slut. I'm gonna make sure that she's safe and comfortable, and then I'm gonna be like, you go, girl. And then I'm gonna work on it more to make it seem more genuine. Okay, here's another really hard part. So critical thinking is hard, but I think this is even harder. Because we're socialized to just be submissive and act like stuff isn't happening, and like this social interaction will be over soon, so if I ignore it, we'll get over it. Okay? Don't tolerate gender-constricted dialogue or humor in your sphere. Ooh, humor, that's a big one. None of these sexist jokes. I mean, it's just whatever works for you. And people always think like, Brittany, this is how it's happening. It's a really big problem. I'm just one person. Boo. Ugh, I can't stand when people say just one person. Don't say that to yourself anymore. One people together can do a lot. So start in your sphere. Start with your small group of friends. Start with your family. Start with all the hard stuff. It gets easier. A good example is my friend Sunny started asking us not to say guys. You guys. Don't say, hey, you guys. And it started with, well, I think she got it from someone else. But Sunny talked to me about it, and then I talked to other people about it. And now, like, if you walk into our sphere of friends, we all pretty much know that we don't say you guys. So that happened pretty quick. That was like a 20-person socialization in like 1 month. So Change happens in small spheres because all these spheres are connected into the giant globe. Okay, and here's a good one that I'm a big fan of, education reform. Rethink vague, exclusive, and shaming education around sex and sexuality. Okay, so we all know we went through weird high school sex education where there was just like fallopian tubes on the board, like those are supposed to help me. And then it was just talking about when a man and a woman are married in love, this is what they do with their fallopian tubes. So rethink that sex education you got, see if it helped you, and see if you think that it would help your kids, okay? Or, you know, your family, or your little sister, or the kid walking down the street. So, attend, which you're all doing, good job. Attenders support the need for comprehensive sex education. That's things that tell you how sex works, how certain parts fit together, how certain people don't fit these gender norms, and then how not to get pregnant if you don't want to get pregnant, and places you can go, and things like that. That would be comprehensive sex ed, okay? So attenders support that, so start thinking we might need comprehensive sex ed. And then finally take Mona Scott's human sexuality class, because it's good stuff, or anyone else's human sexuality class. So, in closing, the objective of this PowerPoint is that we can critically think about ourselves, about our sexuality, and that we can empower other women around us. But more so, what I want most is for the females in the room who feel like dirty, freaky monsters to not feel like dirty, freaky monsters. Thank you.